back to Sad Dad Games Podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tucker.
I'm Scott.
Today we'll be doing Death Stranding episodes 10, Die Hardman, 11, Clifford Unger, and 12, what's the 12th one? Bridges. Right.
So hang on, Shan. Before
Yeah.
you get too far into it, I think that we just really glossed over an important point of how cool Scott's background is. We just moving on.
Scott has
just
joined
slotting that
Bridges.
in.
I've been very hard at work.
I was
Yes.
going to slot that into episode 12, Bridges.
Oh, too late. I did it right now.
All right. Yes, Scott, the most tech savvy of all of us, has a Bridges background. None of us could figure that out in time, so
It's too hard. You gotta
Also,
click
very
on stuff.
smooth background. I have to say, it's not like the team's background where your whole silhouette is fuzzy on the edges. It's very crisp.
Is that dependent on your
Thank
graphics card, or I don't know what's going on there, but it's very good.
So to test
Thank
it out,
you.
Scott, while you're answering the question, move back and forth really fast so we
It's pretty good, right?
looks good.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really
not
good.
too bad. Yeah. No, it's
Okay.
just built into the Mac. Yeah.
Oh, it's a Mac. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got the one reason that you use your Mac and not for work, but
Yeah.
No, yeah, I pulled the Mac out and I'm using the iPhone as the camera today. And those paired together, I think
oh,
it does okay. Yeah.
Fancy pants.
it's a whole set. Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, let's actually get into this then. Die Hardman is just sort of a filler episode while you're traveling from one side of the map to the other. So Sam needs to travel to Lake Knot City on foot because what's her name? Fragile can't make the jump anymore after she just conveniently jumped everybody else. She now has jet lag in her cells from all the chiralium that had built up in it, which is brilliant because there's a time distortion on the beach. And if her body absorbs enough of that chiralium, her body just sort of lags with it when she pops back through the seam or wherever or however she does it. I don't think she goes through the seam, but
I like how they describe it as jet lag on a cellular level, and it's like, sure, that sounds right.
Yeah, why not?
That's actually a pretty apt description.
yeah. Mama had her cells absorb chiralium, so the cells seem to love doing that.
Yeah. It made sense.
But
it was fun.
yeah, this seems like it would be tedious, but for some reason I just was like, I always look forward to this part where because I took the time, especially this time, to build as many roads as I possibly could. So this is actually just sort of like a cathartic drive for me.
It's like a road trip for Shan. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the I'm traveling back, to my roots kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Seeing all your progress that you've done.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of when you're playing like a big long RPG or something, and then you go back to a starter area and it's like, oh, I remember this place. But it's like a whole journey of that where you're like, it makes you start like was what you thought was your ending point, this opposite side of the country, and you have to trek all the way back to where you started. And there's all these points along the way, like, oh, that's where I bumped into those mules, and oh, I remember dropping cargo over there, and oh, I remember I ran into a bunch of BTs. It's just like these little memories dotted across the map as you're crossing the whole country again, and it's just this nice man, having you feel connected to your past self. Themes of connection is very cool.
Yeah, you're reminded of all the growth that Sam has done along this trek.
Did you have all of the roads done, Shan, or did you have to do some on foot?
No, I ended up stopping at the point where you get to all of the rock deformations around the middle distribution center, and that's where it gets harder to travel. But I think what happens is that I didn't check on this, but I think it's cheaper to build the roads when you have connected the area versus when you haven't. And that's where I stopped connecting the chiral network, because Conan O'Brien's segment is right in between there. And maybe since I never did that until after the game, the chiral network wasn't on board, so it cost more to do it. And so I just ran out of materials.
Yeah, It takes a lot of materials to build a road end to end. What did you do, Scott?
So I had all the way from the bottom of the map, the southernmost, what is that? The South Knot City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There all the way up to Lake Knot City. So I just had that one line all the way built, but I didn't go
about halfway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Halfway.
As far south as you can go, but I didn't do like the offshoot that went around to Mountain Knot City and back where like the photographer and the other people are. I didn't make that loop. I had a bunch of zip lines, so I was able to use a couple of zip lines and then hoofed it for a little bit, and then I was on the road, and it was pretty quick.
I wonder how many people have like built roads end to end. It's quite a lot of material collecting.
That's got to be the platinum trophy or something.
Yeah. Let us know in the
I'm
comments.
getting pretty close, actually. I've been
you've
working
done
on
that.
it. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran out of ceramics. Ceramics are weirdly hard to come by, and so I've been raiding some mule camps, and getting up the mountain is very hard because it takes a long scenic route instead of going straight up it, you know?
Yeah.
But it feels nice. Like, I wanted to connect all of the highways before going back and then trying to do some, like, fun missions. But I did do Conan O'Brien right away, and I believe there was a couple other cameos. I think I heard that Sam Lake is in this. Does anybody know him?
Sam Lake is in it?
Yeah, I think he is.
Really?
He's a writer and director for like Alan Wake, Control, the whole
That's right.
Remedy
Him
universe.
him and Kojima would be friends. They seem like they're palling around and having lots of weird ideas together.
Two of the most, those two and Druckmann, I consider like the three best writers in video games. They know how to control the medium and use the ludonarrative in order to create an experience that you can't get through movie or film. They understand what it is capable of.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as you're traveling between wherever you start, I don't remember.
Edgenaut?
And then are you an Edgenaut? Yeah, you're an Edgenaut because you just defeated Higgs.
Yeah.
And you're going back to Lake Knot, so not all the way across, but back to where Fragile had taken you over on her boat. Then Deadman starts calling in and telling you he's uncovering some artifacts and some records about the original BB project and who Die Hardman is, and trying to, stir up some uncertainty about whether he can be trusted or not. So we find out that Unger retired around the time of the Death Stranding, and he died before the BB experiments ended. I wonder why. We'll know later. And he was involved in some unknown way. BB shouldn't be connected to him if he's from the BB experiments. I think we already kind of touched on that, but like, unless Lou has been kept around for decades, something's off there. But we'll put a pin in that. So he talks about, in another one, he talks about the true purpose of the BB experiments. Strand supposedly continued it to prevent voidouts as BT detectors, and the chiral communications were secondary, but that was just a cover story. They were conceived as a catalyst for the chiral network. The knots didn't exist, so they were the original chiralium tether to the beach for connection. That's what I'm thinking, is they were starting these BBs to create that original tether with their in-between state between worlds. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and in our last recording, I talked about maybe the BBs being clones, and they're.
Oh, right.
I don't think that holds a lot of merit, but just the fact that there's instant communication over vast spaces, and knowing how Lochna and Malingen, right?
Malingen, yeah.
Malingen, how they were able to communicate over the beach. I was thinking, I wonder if there's something there, where each of these places had a BB of some kind. How would they be able to communicate if all they did was provide a connection to the beach? But if they were able to communicate with each other, then they might be able to kind of hijack on that and do it that way. But
I think it's like a telephone line. I think it's a telephone line. The BBs connect the world to the chiral network, and then just through the medium of the beach, anything can be transmitted over any distance. So it's really just like making a telephone call across distances.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense given how they talk about BBs being tools.
Right.
And equipment, especially. I like that telephone line analogy. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, so I'm not really holding on to my clone theory.
Okay. All right. Well, but this actually makes sense. Back in a previous episode, we saw that when Sam gets to Edge Knot City, he has to deliver a BB as a key to turn it on. And I understood this finally. It's because Bridges, the original expedition, headed out. They didn't make it to Edge Knot City, so they never brought it online. So while they were traveling, they were connecting all of these locations with BBs, and they stopped short of the final one, so you had to bring it online.
That's right.
All right. Yeah.
But that was years ago, right? That was years ago that
Yes.
Bridges 1 was doing this. But they talk about the bridge babies only being able to be used for like a year or something. But is that
Right.
while they're actively being used and they can be put in hibernation or something? Or how do we reconcile this?
I mean, I don't know, but it's indicated that your BB unit, Lou, is in some ways different, that he's starting to develop and grow, and I wonder if he's got some kind of unique traits that make him able to last longer.
Right, but we're not even talking about our bridge baby. We're talking about the one they sent with us. You know, they said
the
that
key is a special bridge baby. It's different than the others. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, I was just gonna go with Scott's point. I think of it as, hey, we have this key. We're not gonna boot it up until we're ready to use it. Is kind of how I imagined it.
All right, so I was going to say that Lou is special because he's Dooms compatible, and I think that they decommission BBs at 1 year because that actually is the point where they start to develop cognitively. So he is just going past that threshold, and they're starting to see what actually happens when they do that. So that's my guess. But yeah, so Deadman says that Amelie was installing them as they moved west, and it was a sacrifice, and that maybe it cost her soul because, you know, it's obviously pretty dubious, but, you know, what country isn't built on things like this?
Doombious?
No.
What a dumb joke.
Oh, reaching myself there. Reaching.
Thank you. All right, in another conversation, Unger says he Unger put in his own child in the experiment accidentally. He didn't know what the experiment was, and maybe he needed to go reclaim it, and that's why he probably hates the president, and he redirected that hatred towards Bridges, and maybe this is why he wants to cause the last stranding. So it's sort of redirecting. Before it was Higgs. Well, if it's not Higgs because he's dead and this is still happening, maybe it's Cliff. Well, then what is his motivation? It's to cause the last stranding because he is hateful that his BB was taken away.
Yeah, so I was a little bit confused on this part of it. Was Deadman and Sam expecting once Higgs was gone that everything was going to be kind of back to normal-ish?
Yeah, I think they thought that Higgs was controlling Clifford.
Yes, that's what they
imply. And so they thought that once Higgs was gone, that everything would just kind of fix itself. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know, because when you're on the beach and then Unger shows up again after Fragile, you hear the gunshot to Higgs. Yeah, I don't know. I was having a hard time lining it up in my mind of why that would be I feel like it's a quick jump of just like, Unger's dead, or not Unger, Higgs is dead. Unger came back. Oh, it's actually Unger who's in charge. That just seemed like a broad jump to me, but...
Well, they're trying to rationalize any way that it might not be Amelie. So this is just them doing the best with the information they had. Because it looked like Clifford Unger had been keeping Bridget / Amelie, whatever. I think he says he thinks that he's keeping Bridget and Die Hardman captive on the beach. And so if he's doing that, is he in control? If he's in control, what is his motivation?
Okay. I follow that.
They're still trying to figure out. Deadman and Sam are talking. They're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on.
At that beach.
They're hypothesizing that Cliff is in charge. Yeah.
In another recording, a conversation, Die Hardman says the director must have shared a strong connection with Amelie. Everything is redacted. The director and Unger have history, so maybe he jumped to Amelie's beach that way. But then he wonders, well, how did they both end up on Amelie's beach? So to be able to jump to beaches, you need to have a connection to someone who is there or that person who owns that beach. And so he thinks that maybe we just have it wrong. The connection is actually between Die Hardman and Unger, and that's how he got there. But then how did they both get to Amelie's beach? How are they both connected to Amelie? We don't know yet. It's just a chain of logic that's hard to follow if you're trying to keep up with the mechanics of how this game works and how you can and can't travel places.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of lore kind of backloaded on this game. It's like you spend a lot of the game being confused, and then at the end it's like "Buh, buh, 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 buh," and it's just like revelation after revelation, and it's just like so much information. And we're right at the beginning of that like floodgate of revelations.
I feel like I need
like
a flow chart of how things work. Like
Break it down, make some charts and some graphs.
Yeah, now that I've played the game, I think I understand like 80-ish% of the repatriation process, maybe 90%. And I'm curious, I should just say 70%. That's the magic number.
There it is.
I looked it up on YouTube. It looks like nobody's really created like a scene by scene breakdown of what's happening during the catcher and gazer process of being caught by a BT and then getting pulled down, getting into that fight, dying, going to the seam, and then floating back and finding your body. Like nobody's really articulated what's happening, what are all these creatures' motivations, and helping tie all of the lore together. And so it's an opportunity. I think maybe that could be a standalone video.
I mean, yeah. How long would that episode like be? 4 or 5 hours? Like,
well, the whole process takes like 2 minutes to play out. So if you broke it down shot for shot, it'll take about 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm sure that we could really squeeze it into a whole series of just the repatriation process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've tried to explain it 2 or 3 times, and I've like touched on completely different mechanics of how the whole thing works because I keep understanding it in a completely new way. It is really just that complicated, but very thorough.
And I wonder how much actual hand waving is happening as well, deliberately, where we're given a lot of lore and a lot of explanations, enough to where when explanations are not given, we're given the impression that if we just look hard enough and think hard enough, that it is there, but it isn't.
If I think in every way.
No, Scott, you're exactly right. When I'm trying to because now I've completed the game and I went back and I'm trying to figure out, okay, they've never explained some of these things. And I'm trying to think, okay, so how do I fill in the gap with like, what was he thinking? How is the logic actually tying all these mechanics together? And I get through this chasm of, well, maybe it's just hand waving. And then like after an hour of thinking about it, I'm like, oh wait, there might actually be logic here. And I hope I'm not reading into it, but I think he just doesn't want to hold anybody's hand and he wants you to find it or make up your own artistic explanation for what's happening. But I've been impressed, like a lot of his logic in his world holds up very consistently. It's very impressive.
It's something that on the surface just seems bonkers, but there's a lot of underlying rules that aren't immediately apparent.
Yeah, everything does appear to be... Oh, sorry. Yeah, everything appears to be consistent, and it does make sense in the world. And I can't imagine how difficult that is to pull off while you are developing the game and like the engine and gameplay mechanics at the same time,
Well, and like in the moments you're experiencing these mechanics, this lore, whatever, it feels disconnected. And then as you play the game, it starts to connect itself, which I think is pretty meta for this game that's based on connection. But I just thought that was really interesting because it's like at these last few chapters, I think probably the last, 4th or 5th of the game, everything you've experienced in the past starts to really make sense. And you're like, oh, all these revelations start to hit. And you're like, this was a mechanic that was going on all along that I thanks for laughing, Shan.
Can we just clip that?
I was very excited.
Yeah. But just these mechanics that at the time you didn't understand, you may have put it as this is hand waving, but there's such a deepness to it that there's these rules that are abstract rules that are hard to grasp just on the surface, but once you understand the whole background story of them, it really makes sense. So there's kind of like this mystery solving of how this world works, which I think as we've gone through this game, we've hit on a lot of those points, trying to figure out how things work, how the seams work, how the beach works. And in these last few chapters, it really starts to just make sense, as much as Kojima can make sense.
Yeah. To us, normal people,
to us,
plebeians.
Us mere mortals trying to comprehend his intricate, weird mind.
Amazing.
Speaking
All right,
of
so
figuring stuff out, I have
right.
one question that might make me look like an idiot.
I
Do
would
we
love it.
know what Dooms stands for yet at this point?
I don't think it stands for anything. I don't think it's an initialism of anything.
No?
I'm gonna look it
Okay.
up.
They just call it Dooms.
I think they just call it
Part of
dooms.
me thinks it could be initial because I think in the subtitles it's always capitalized.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
DOOMS.
but so is not. Are a bunch of things. I think he just loves like proper nouns, and he loves doing these all caps things. I don't know when and where he chooses to do it, but they never say what dooms is, and they just imply it relates to doomsday, or maybe that's just a joke. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they call Higgs calls it Doomsday.
According to
Really
Wikipedia,
funny.
it is capitalized like an acronym, but no one knows what it stands for, if it stands for anything.
We need to invite
Maybe
Kojima to the
Kojima has it in a
podcast.
secret notebook
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah. He's the only one that knows.
It's the only reason they're making Death Stranding 2 is so he can reveal
It's just-
that at the end of the game.
It's just going to be a 10-minute long game, and they'll be like, Doom stands for this, and then the credits will roll.
I incorrectly inserted that this was an initialism, and it is an acronym because you say it. An initialism, you say the letters. So I got that backwards.
You're about to look so dumb on the internet, Shan.
At least correct myself.
So bad at words.
So obviously wrong about things. I get those two mixed up in my head all the time.
It's really embarrassing for you.
When in doubt, say the most pretentious one and work backwards because nobody will understand what you're talking about. All right, in a follow-up clip, Hartman starts talking about what is Cliff's objective. The beaches are coalescing to form a single massive seam which will bring the Death Stranding. Battlefields and Hartman's beach have never intersected with this coalescing of beaches. I'm curious if this is because the battlefields have no exit. They have sealed off. So maybe it's like to be able to coalesce, they need to have a seam that allows them to time knife each other. Knife each other, yeah. That's a thing I just said on the internet. Great. Oh,
I can't explain I don't know exactly the Battlefield one, but for Amelie's beach, I think that there's a good reason why she has a separate beach as an extinction entity. But I think that, and I can't remember if this is something that I inferred on my own, or I think they explain it later. I don't think I'm smart enough to just figure this out. But I think that by connecting the chiral network and increasing the chirality in the world, that's what's causing everyone's individual beaches to merge together into one super beach. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what's causing it. I was just curious why theoretically Hartman's beach wouldn't have been coalescing with everybody else's. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No,
That's a hard one.
I have no idea. Like, and that's one that I spent a little bit of time thinking about, and I don't remember if I wrote a note to ask you guys about that or not. But I was like, why are those three beaches, the war beach, or the different war beaches that you visit, Cliff Unger and Amelie's beach and Hartman's beach, why are they the only unaffected ones? Particularly Hartman's. Does it make sense? Like, why is that?
Well, I was curious if this was related to him not having officially died, and the beaches that are coalescing are the ones that have died, because the purpose of this is the last stranding, where all the seams converge and BTs pour out into our world. And would you have those BTs or know this level of death if you haven't yourself died yet?
Well, but Hartman shares a beach with a lot of other people that died in the same tragedy his family did, right? So
yeah, but they have moved on.
Okay. Oh, yes, they're not BTs. They're not stranded on the beach. They've moved through the beach to the other side. So, yeah, I don't know. That makes sense to me.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Tucker, were you going to say something?
I think this is definitely a out there idea, but I was thinking something built around trauma, because Hartman's trauma is a very unique trauma. Wartime is a very unique trauma. Learning you're an extinction entity is probably a pretty unique trauma of why Amelie has, separate beach that way, but it's kind of just half baked in my mind right now.
Well, and for all we know, maybe there are other people's beaches like that in
he hasn't visited all of them.
Weird remote areas, like people that Sam and Hartman and this little group of people have never met or heard of before. maybe their beaches are in a similar situation. These are just the 3 beaches that they know of that are not coalescing into a singular beach.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
where I was wondering if Hartman was only allowed to travel to certain types of beaches, and those are the ones that are coalescing that he knows, but the ones he can't travel to are the ones that are not coalescing.
Interesting.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, because I think if oh, go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just gonna say, like we've seen a few people be able to travel to and from beaches. Fragile is probably the most obvious one that can travel to a beach, right? Um, and we've been able to travel to beaches, but Hartman, he only travels to the beach when his heart stops, like when he's technically dead. Why
Self kills.
does that have anything to do with the types of beaches that he is able to visit and that he is visiting? As opposed to the others, is it in a different state of some kind?
As a, hmm. That's hard for me to know. I don't know.
Sounds like
Yeah.
a question for people smarter than us. I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe.
No, I had a thought kind of along the similar, I guess, kind of similar lines on like what happens to somebody's beach after they move through it. So thinking of,
It's an empty
you
beach.
know, it's an empty beach, but does that beach just dissolve into the universe? And so is that a beach that's actually visitable? And that's why Hartman can't find his family because his family's beach is gone because they've passed through. They've walked into the water.
Yeah, do
Which would
beaches of
be-
people who have passed through disappear once they've passed through them?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was under the thought that maybe even those empty beaches were the ones coalescing,
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah.
because we don't always see this, but when you die and you're floating around in the seam, there are times when it shows white floating BTs, which are the ones that Higgs is able to pull out of the tar substance. And from what I understand, those floating BTs, so they come out and they're covered in tar and they're black, but when they're in the seam, they're white. And from what I understood, those BTs, when they're there, they're trying to capture cause that are trying to escape the seam. And that kind of helps understand their motivation when they're pulled through the tar. They're also trying to recapture Sam and his call to pull him back into the seam and reclaim his life. Or they just also crave void outs and like any BT. I don't know.
I also had a thought that I think it was the last episode we talked. Yeah, it was the last episode we talked about where when Amelie and Sam, after the battle with Higgs, are like leaving the beach, they just run and they go into someone else's beach by just running along it. Is this like the first sign of the beaches merging and coalescing, that they're able to get to another person's beach just by running along the shore?
Well, that's complicated because Amelie has he says right here, he says that Amelie probably has a higher level beach that is above all of this and has set all of this into motion. They were technically running along Amelie's beach. And so were they just jumping to one of the capillaries, or were they still on Amelie's beach even over that cliff? Or is the cliff really just that like inlet that you see along that beach, and going over the hill causes you to enter another beach? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or was
Amelie,
or was Amelie just kind of lying about it and manipulating Sam and orchestrating everything that happened later? I mean, maybe you can't get there by just running. She was just like, hey, we get there first, we have to run because I need you at this location so I can do this thing, to send you back.
Yeah.
That's your way home.
Yeah, I think she has some hidden motivation there as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Well, I also love how you touched on it, how Hartman describes when he's like describing these beaches that Amelie has like basically a super beach. It's like the heart. He's like, imagine it as a cardiovascular system. It's like, of course,
it's the only thing he knows.
It's the only thing he ever. It's like
if Hartman talks about the cardiovascular system one more time.
Yeah. And so I
shut up about the cardiovascular system.
Shut up about the sun. So I thought that was adorable and very on brand, but it also was a really good metaphor that the heart, like Amelie's beach, the heart pumps chiral energy down through all the other veins and capillaries, which are the other people's beaches. And so that's since she is the giver of dooms, it would stand to reason that a high concentration, maybe the source of most chiral energy, comes from Amelie's beach as an extinction entity, and it pumps through down from that heart into other people's beaches.
Yeah, we'll have to get into this later, but I think the high density of chiralium on her beach is actually possibly what allows more color to seep into her beach than on sub beaches, which is why they
Which
only
is why
get
red.
blue color because their
Oh.
seam has less of an opening to allow that color to filter through.
Hmm.
All right, so after this, you get to Lake Knot City, and Unger, yeah, you get pulled up into a supercell, Dorothy style again. And as you're about to be swept up, I think you plug into BB, and so you have another Unger vision.
Yep.
And this is the one that's going to hurt the most. But he's describing how he was scared to be a father. And remember, he's a combat veteran of 3 different wars, and he gave it up when he realized that he had to be a father. He says he was scared to be a father, and he had to give up a soldier, which is his own identity. It's everything he's ever known, but it was a sacrifice he made to do that. And I love that it's like they chose him being a combat veteran to show he is the prototype of all bravery and courage, and he has never stood down against challenge, and yet here he is saying even this scared him to be responsible for another soul. And we'll have to revisit this later, but yeah, he says that didn't scare him, and he had it wrong. Being a father is what actually made him brave, and he doesn't know why it took him so long to realize that and to adopt that mantle. Then he says, "Don't make the same mistake."
No, I love that line. I think it's beautiful. He's sitting there talking to BB. I think this is one of the. Is this where he is like injured and bloodied a little bit? And he's
on the
like
floor
a chat with BB. Yeah, he's on the floor. He's injured and bloodied. Possibly some of his either final moments with BB or some close to it. And he's sitting there talking, and it's just this beautiful one line where he says, "Being a father didn't make me scared; it made me brave." And it's just like Mads Mikkelsen. They need to come up with like something better than the Game Awards. We need Oscar level awards for like performances in video games, because I don't care who you are, that man deserves an Oscar for his performance in this game. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, we should see who won Best Actor that year. If somebody wants to look that up while we keep going.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I was reading, and they
2019.
almost
I'll look it up.
2021-ish.
they were considering Keanu Reeves for the same role, but went with Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh.
And while I think
Would've
he
been
could have done a good
interesting.
job, I think Mads he really knocked it out of the park. I'm glad it was him.
Yeah. Keanu is like, he's charming, but he's more reserved, and he doesn't have the full spectrum of emotion that Cliff is able to display here. So he can do the action. He's one of the greatest action.
Sorry.
He was Best Actor that year.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen won for his role in Death Stranding, which
Of course
fantastic.
he did.
He absolutely should have. Yeah.
Right. So Keanu, he's like one of the like second to like Tom Cruise and some of the obvious ones like martial artists, but as far as just like normal white action heroes, like Keanu Reeves is top 5 greatest of all time, but he doesn't have the emotional depth that is needed for what Clifford Unger gave us in this game.
Yeah, if you doubt it, go watch The Replacements and you'll realize Keanu is not that great.
Listen, I adore Keanu and just about every word that comes out of his mouth, but I think that usually because that word is but I think that it would have done this game a disservice to cast Keanu. I think he probably would have done a fine job, but they needed really someone who could emotionally carry this game, and that's what Mads Mikkelsen does. So
yeah, he's the greatest. Like, he plays the greatest badass as a combat veteran, and then on the other side of that, you feel the conflict of like being terrified of him and thinking, protect that man with his life. He is the greatest father this world has ever known. And you have to hold both of those in your head at the same time. And he's able to jump between those fluidly, especially in this next episode.
In the next chapter. Oh, yeah. Same.
Same.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys. Jinx is a big deal in my house right now. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and it's all that we ever do. So.
Oh my gosh, she's 8?
Yeah.
Jinx, buy me some
Gwen
Coke.
is 8. Emily Grace is 6. So yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So during the end of that flashback, Die Hardman is given the order by President Strand to shoot Unger, And the last part happens outside of BB's vision. We don't see, but you're to assume that Die Hardman shoots him. And then we jump to the beach. We see a repatriate doll. So there's a couple versions of these dolls that we'll see along the way, but I'm referring to this as a repatriate doll because it has the T section on it.
We'll just call it Patty Doll. Patty the doll.
Yeah. There.
No? All
Please.
Oh, Patrick.
Just me? I'm the only one that thought that was funny?
All right. Eric, did you think that this was World War I also?
Yep, this is definitely World War One. All wars are World War One. There were no other wars in my brain. Yep. Tropical setting, lots of jungle, underbrush. Clearly World War One. So
clearly,
yeah.
I mean that is Poland to a T.
Yeah. Yep.
The beaches of
Were there
right
trenches
here.
in Poland?
Yep. Well,
Maybe.
Normandy was World War. Or I guess it was both, but
Yeah, because wasn't
Southern
that
Poland.
the Eastern Front?
Yeah. All right. Well, we all collectively don't understand enough about history to make anything out of this.
we all just sounded really dumb right there.
The most
I can
know
name countries. Yeah.
Yeah, the most I know about Vietnam comes from like Tropic Thunder and and
Don't
whatever
you dare badmouth Tropic Thunder. Everything in there is accurate.
and Apocalypse Now. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, solid.
Oh, and
Platoon. Did you watch Platoon?
I didn't watch
With
Platoon.
Oh, that's a solid one. Charlie Sheen, surprisingly decent.
He's in Apocalypse Now also, isn't he?
No, I think it's just Platoon. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else.
Apocalypse Now. I'm pretty sure it has Sheen. Maybe
Everybody
it doesn't.
shut up. Shan's gonna figure it out.
Yeah, that has Sheen in it. He's like the main guy, except he plays across what's his face, that great actor who was
David. He's got he plays the Arbiter. He's got that super great deep voice. David Brand.
no, Marlon Brando from The Godfather.
Oh man, I'm thinking of
So
a different
embarrassing.
thing. I'm thinking of a completely different movie.
Okay, so first off, Shan, Apocalypse Now is
Martin
Martin
Sheen.
Sheen, and then Platoon
It's
is Charlie
Sheen.
Sheen. They're related.
Let's cut all of this. We got all of this
No,
so
keep
wrong.
No, we were all partially correct, just like our historical accounting of what history is.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, back to the setting in World War One.
We all just need to open a GD book. Oh man, this is why history is so easy to repeat itself, is because of people like us just allowing it to happen.
We're all
Are we the
intentionally
baddies?
oblivious. Yeah.
Maybe we're the bad guys. Also, this is a tangent, but like I had just gotten into like a skiff with my sister about like Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick being some of the greatest films ever made, but they were like government propaganda for the Air Force. And I saw also this week people were starting to argue about Star Wars, and apparently people just missed that was an allusion to the Vietnam War, and that the Empire were the bad guys, us, and the rebels that you're rooting for is actually the Viet Cong. So just
Joke's on
sorta-
you. George Lucas owned you.
George Lucas owns everything.
Yeah.
Did you think that
Not
his art was
anymore.
too lowbrow?
Yeah.
Just let it wash over you? Oh man, he was indoctrinating you the whole time. All right, so on the beaches of Vietnam, you see with the doll the Tar ascends, and out of that also come the soldier. No, the soldiers come jumping out of a plane at this part. They come out of the Tar later, and they are tethered to Cliff every time. Like it's basically the same presentation every time, and it's always cool. So
I will
keep doing
never
it.
get tired of this intro. It's always so badass, and just I will never get tired of it.
He could pull out a cigarette out of thin air, and like I want to smoke. Like I want to become a.
You telling me if I smoke,
He's
I could be
so
that
cool.
cool?
I can have that
it's
much
cool every single
gravitas.
time.
But this time he's wearing Cliff Unger's mask, and I was wondering, do we know why? Does it matter? Is it because he was just holding him captive at the beach and is to demonstrate that he
You mean
still
he's
is
wearing
in control?
Die
of it?
Hardman's mask?
Oh, what'd I say?
You said Cliff Unger. He is Cliff Unger.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's wearing that mask, the Die Hardman mask. Any other reason why he might be
completely
doing
missed that detail. I don't know why. I didn't notice that at all. It's clearly an important detail that just completely evaded me.
I also thought maybe it could represent this was him going mask off and he's going to fight you with his absolute hardest, most badass self. But this is me reading
Well,
into things that maybe were just nothing.
him and Die Hardman have a history and a past. I wonder if they're trying to make some kind of connection there where he's. It's just a half-baked idea where in this beach he's forming some kind of closer connection to Die Hardman or who Die Hardman used to be, and so he's got his mask now. I'm thinking this up as I'm saying it, so I have no idea. But there's, I mean,
A nugget of an idea.
Can I interject something here? I was
Yes.
just doing some quick research, possibly something, maybe nothing, but looking up the typical size of special forces group, like a Delta Force, like top of the top, cream of the crop. They are typically around 6 people, which is interesting because
Like SEAL Team
Unger's group,
6?
yeah, like SEAL Team 6 is Unger's group is only 5, and then you have John, who is not there.
These are
I
his
wonder if he used to
soldiers.
be on his team. Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh my
very
God.
very interesting.
Tucker, that
If
has
that's
to
a
be
thing.
it.
It's got to be a thing.
He's tethered to them because of their deep connection.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, and that's why later in the game, when every time we see Die Hardman talking to Cliff in past clips, there's clearly some kind of affection and respect that Die Hardman has towards Cliff. So I bet that he served under him in some kind of elite task force.
Yeah. And maybe you know that. Maybe that's just a guess, but
Yeah, maybe.
all right.
Oh, I haven't played the last couple chapters. Is that what happens? I was honestly making a guess. I don't remember.
I was like, man, Eric, you are playing real dumb right now.
I am. I am. I'm not playing dumb. I'm just actually dumb.
Okay. Well, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
There are
What's
plenty
going
of
to happen?
crumbs that allude to something like that.
Ugh.
All right, so officially it starts the episode 11, Clifford Unger. So we've had 3 episodes now with Cliff. We've had Clifford, or is it just Cliff? I think it's Clifford, and Unger, and now Clifford Unger. So what do you think is meant by breaking up his names like that?
So I think
there's
for
a-
me, go ahead. Go ahead. Somebody.
I was just going to say, I think there's a significance to his character. He's the only one that gets 3 chapters. And I think that, like, I'm going to go back to the Star Wars analogy. A lot of times people are like, who's the main character of Star Wars? And people are always like, well, Luke or Obi-Wan or what. But the character through line for the first 6 movies is Anakin. So it's like he is the main character. Darth Vader is the main character. I think that, I don't know if Mads Mikkelsen is the main character, but this is his story. And I think that he is so interwoven into every facet of the story that he gets 3 chapters because he is one of the chief tethers and most important aspects of the story, and quite possibly like what could be classified as a main character.
Yeah. The first one is, does he go by, is the first episode with him Unger, or is it Clifford?
Yeah, first one's Unger.
First one's Unger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
his
then a
last
few
name-
chapters later, it's Clifford, and then now
Yeah.
Clifford Unger.
So his last name Unger was more of an allusion to him craving reconnection with his BB, and his name sort of implies younger or children in another language, stuff like that. So it's like we're getting to know that part of him. Then Clifford, I don't know if it's like a way to get to know him more personally is to use his first name and show what he was as like a combat veteran, although he's relatively the same across both episodes. In Clifford Unger, it's like, well, what if we showed you his combat veteran self and his father self at the same time? This is the full version of him, full depth.
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. All right. So Sam starts to run and is stopped by a sharp head pain, and the Odradek starts to go off, and Unger awakens, and even though he's already jumped off of a plane, he's awakening again.
So that he can pull a cigarette out of thin air again.
Yes.
Like, cool guy.
Why wouldn't you?
Now, I didn't know
being
if
that
him...
badass requires you to take naps.
Yeah.
It's too much energy.
got to rest in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know if this meant that like Sam was connected to Unger or not, because I didn't see BB react in the same way, and I didn't know why he was getting the searing head pain. Maybe it's just more mechanic hand waving and I'm reading too much into it. But the BB doesn't appear to be as effective as Sam. Okay, I already said that. That was pointless. All right, so we see Cliff. He's on the barbed wire web again, and we see a nail-headed BB, and the web dissolves. It falls into the black tar, and Clifford Unger emerges, and he pulls out another cigarette, and he lights the water on fire. I think this was historically pretty accurate. I think a lot of oil and napalm and everything was being used all the time during the Vietnam War, and so like that water was pretty flammable. But it also just represents how tormented and angry he is, and it's a fantastic visual.
When he first came up out of that stuff and then pulled out a cigarette, my first thought was, it's a good thing that stuff isn't flammable.
And then, whoosh.
There we go. I was just thinking of that scene in Zoolander. But this one wasn't as fun. Yeah, this wasn't as fun.
Wake me up before you go.
Yeah, playing in the background changes the entire feel of the game.
Hey, Clifford Unger, do you know what would help you through these really trying times? Orange mocha frappuccino.
Just because we're ridiculously good looking doesn't mean we can't too not die in a freak gasoline fight accident.
Oh my gosh. All right, so after you fight him, it seems like this one goes really fast. They're probably all about the same length, though. But
This
after
one's a
that,
lot more intense. I feel like
That's
it's
true.
more. It feels more like a firefight and less like sneaking around. Like,
yeah, there's less to hide behind. It's
Well, I think,
fantastic design.
if I remember in this one, you're not carrying as much cargo. Or I feel
No.
like the other fights, you are like typically have a decent amount of cargo with you. This one feels more like you're unburdened from that and just fighting.
Yeah, there wasn't as much laying around.
Yeah. So after you defeat Cliff, he's on the ground and he reaches for the astronaut keychain that's on the BB pod and he whistles the tune and Sam cries and Sam pulls off BB and Cliff tells him we're getting out of here, he promises. So it seems like he's reliving one of those flashbacks that we've already had of this moment where he wants to save BB, but he is trapped and he's stuck in that mental loop in his head. He thinks he's actually there at that moment.
Yeah.
which is like just really heartbreaking that he's just living these worst moments of where he feels like he failed his child over and over again.
Yeah, that's why he's on this beach with, his soldiers and everything, is because he's stuck in that. So
In the
as he goes
fight.
to reach for BB, Sam pulls BB back away and he asks, "Are you Clifford Unger?" And I don't know. What do you think he means? I thought he was saying like, "Are you there right now, or are you stuck in your combat veteran mode?"
So I think it's interesting that he uses his full name.
Yes.
So I think for you, Shan, to me, I read it the same way. Like, hey, are you the complete you? So my theory, of why there's 3 chapters and why they hit different names, boils up to my, I guess, bigger theory on naming in this game. I think a big part of why people are named what they are is because their past experiences, events have happened in their lives. Those define who they are. Their connections to their past define who they are, and that's why they have those names. So that's why Hartman has his name, is because he has this whole connection and experience with his heart. That's why Die Hardman has his name. That's why, everybody has their name. So I think with Clifford Unger, it's okay. We have Unger, the combat veteran. We have Clifford knowing who he is, as a father figure, as not a combat veteran outside of combat. And then here it's, hey, are you Clifford Unger? Are you your whole self? Not just are you this part of your life? Are you just this part of your life? Are you your whole self? Is where I'm just that this time around hit me in that way of just like, using his full name, because we don't address people in their full names very often. And so it feels a little bit out of place here.
Well, and I like how at the beginning of this interaction, Sam unhooks BB and starts to like hand BB towards Cliff, but then draws back and is double checks, "Are you Clifford Unger?" But it just shows this like willingness that Sam has to give up something that's important to him to try to help make Clifford whole and to help his part of the journey and help end things. As he's like, he's considering like, will this fix things? Will this make it better?
I mean, it's one last delivery. That's kind of, looking at it as a porter, like this could be the delivery that saves the world.
Another thing that I noticed in here, and it might not be the first time, but it was the first time that I noticed it at least. Clifford refers to it as my baby and not my BB. I think he has been saying BB the whole time, but in this one, he says specifically my baby.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Yeah. Also, after he says, "Are you Clifford Unger?" Cliff says, "Who are you?" And you can see fantastic, like, mocap and micro expressions. He appears to be confused, and he's kind of coming back to reality at this moment. And Sam asks, "Are you the father?" And Cliff starts whistling that tune, and BB reaches out, haunted by that music, and then Sam actually is the one that responds with that tune. And now he would know it from, well, has this song been he's because of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they both know the songs.
Right. And
Also,
BB plays the whole interaction.
As a side note, I love that song.
Yeah.
It's so good. I listen to the soundtrack of it sometimes. They have like a full, like voiced, like vocalized proper song of that. And it's fantastic. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Anyway,
not too often that there's an
really
original song like that's supposed to be meaningful, that's actually good in a movie.
Yeah.
I was really glad that this song was actually something that I quite enjoyed, that was moving.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Mario Odyssey had a fantastic original song. I listened to that one off the soundtrack
Jump
all
Up
the time.
Superstar.
Jump Up
Unapologetically,
Superstar.
without any irony, playing Mario Odyssey, that part where you're like the whole city is having a celebration for you, and they're
Fireworks
like,
going
"Jump,
off.
man, jump!" and there's fireworks, and they're singing "Jump Up Superstar." Not even ashamed, brought a tear to my eye. I was like, it's just like it's the stupidest thing to get emotional over, but I've been playing Mario ever since I was a kid, and it felt like a celebration of Mario, and I was moved
so much
by a
passion.
Mario game, which is not something I thought would ever happen.
Yeah, and like Mario isn't full of like emotional depth, but you were just being reminded of the impact it's had in your life and all the nostalgia there and all the warmth and happiness it's brought you.
100% that, yeah. Music is a super powerful, like it's got a through line straight to my heartstrings. Like that's the quickest way to get me to feel something is with good music.
Yeah, when you pair family stuff with good music, that's
double
trouble.
Double trouble tonight. That's Eurovision.
Double trouble tonight. Yeah, Eurovision. Everybody's seen it, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
Scott. Oh my gosh, Eric! I am so disappointed in you right now.
It was like the only movie that released that first year of COVID, and it was just like pure positivity, happiness, and so I watched it 4 times that year, and it's so funny.
With Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, where they're competing in the Eurovision thing, right?
Yeah. Definitely worth a watch.
I really like both of those actors,
and also probably one of my favorite original soundtracks.
Yeah, very fun to listen to. Up is down, down is up. I don't really give a what.
All right,
So
I'll have to check
stupid.
it out. Yeah.
All right. So after this, Cliff says, "They told me your name was Sam Porter." I don't know who they is. Is he talking about like Amelie, Bridget, or Die Hardman? "They told me your name was Sam Porter, but you're Sam Bridges. My bridge to the future. You bring people together, a bridge to the future. Come on, Sam, stand up." And he puts his dog tags on you. So yeah, I finished the game, so I don't feel like I should talk about this right now. But
Maybe we can put a pin in this and we'll talk about it next week. But like, man,
yeah,
it's a very cool line.
Yeah.
The whistling is a very the call and response whistling is a significant turning point that we have to come back to at the end of the game. That is a moment that you understand better later.
Also, I don't really want, maybe it's not the time to get into the symbolism with the dog tags. But dog tags are really interesting. Just there's always two, and so when a veteran or when somebody in combat dies, they take one to identify who died, and then they leave one with the body, and then usually the family members get the dog tag afterwards. So I think there's a lot of cool symbolism with him handing dog tags over, of just this is such a big part of who he is. This is such a big part of how he's identified, and he's now giving that to Sam.
Like as a,
I'm done. Take my dog tags.
Like he's at peace
you be
now.
the father now.
Yeah.
He knows that Sam is ready to be the father of this BB, and so he's at peace and he's ready to move on. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Sam hands over BB, and Cliff is completely softened at this point, and he ends up handing BB right back. And after that, he goes in and he hugs Sam, which for somebody with aphophobia seems kind of okay with.
What, this is the third hug they've had?
Yeah.
But
yeah, well,
not all of them were as convivial as this one.
I was going to say, this one feels like a hug. The other times, like Unger kind of pulls him in close and holds him there, but this one felt like an embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they do a camera over the shoulder, and you see Cliff is actually wearing the attire he was wearing when he gets shot, and then we hear a gunshot sound that's inserted right there, and he disappears.
Yeah. So I couldn't remember the first chapter, like with Unger, what he looked like then, but I believe he had like his both eyes were all blackened, and then in the last one with Clifford, I pointed out that just one eye had that, right? And then at the end of this one, he's completely clean, like both eyes are clear.
I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Some kind of progression of him slowly releasing his chiralium infection, maybe, that's keeping him on this beach. Is the chiral energy is loosening its hold on him so that he can move to the other side.
Or maybe he also takes chiralium and rubs it on his face like Higgs.
Yeah, maybe. He's going around licking people.
But it's like he's becoming more of himself along the way and like reclaiming his identity. You know, Unger is the most broad identification of him, right? Because there can be multiple Ungers, right? And then Clifford is a little bit more narrow as a first name, and then Clifford Unger gets very, very specific. And so, yeah, it's like he's reclaiming his identity of who he is. And then we were talking about that before, like, are you Clifford Unger? You know, which is, like the full actualization of who he is.
Right. And it also, it's like a face paint mask almost. It's like, you know, when he has that on him, he is under the control of his trauma that's keeping him there. And so, yeah, just showing when he has it or when he doesn't. It's like a mask off moment. All right. So then we flash to Die Hardman without... Oh, okay. Did you notice this? So after Cliff dies, or disappears, I mean, we have another flashback about Die Hardman, but he hasn't connected to BB this time. And every other time, I believe, we have.
Sam has a Mads Mikkelsen flashback without connecting to BB.
Maybe he had it when he embraced Cliff.
Storm. Yeah.
Did he also have it without connecting to BB when he was on the beach before and he embraced Cliff? Or he might have been connected, but he wasn't connecting. So that was a little bit different. Yeah. That was when he was struggling to connect to BB, and that gets it back in sync.
Doesn't he disconnect BB when he hands him to Mads?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He disconnects. He doesn't reconnect when he has this vision. So for some reason, he's able to have a vision at this moment. So pen in that. So Die Hardman is saying, take your BB and get out of this place. There's nothing we can do for your wife. If she orders me to do something, I have to do it. I have to, but I served under you first. So actually, Eric, it is revealed in this episode. Yeah. So we're not going to have to be upset about that. Yay. And your family doesn't...
I do remember that now.
Okay.
that you
And he
expressly stated it to me.
says your family doesn't deserve any of this. Cliff has saved his life many times. So I notice we've been thinking since the beginning that Die Hardman is a repatriate, but if Cliff had to save his life, does that mean he's not a repatriate?
Well,
Right, it would seem to indicate that.
30 seconds. Like right after this conversation, we get an answer to that.
Yeah, we do. But that was where I made the connection. All right. So after this, Sam wakes up in bed. He goes and checks on BB, and it says there's a connection that's lost, and he grabs the dog tag, so those are real again. Deadman shows up, and he says there was another supercell emerged close to Port Knot City at Ground Zero, and Victor brought him back inside from earlier in the game. Wasn't Victor, was it Igor's brother?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. From like
Okay.
way back early in the game. Like
Really hard to
first or
remember
second
30 hours earlier.
Yeah. And such a generic name as well.
Victor.
Well, you got Victor Frankenstein, the doctor, and then Igor
Oh.
is his
Yeah.
assistant in the book, but here they're
Oh,
brothers.
that's so
Pronounced
good.
Igor.
What's
And
that?
Also-
Frankenstein fans out
Their
there.
parents
It's
were
pronounced
fans.
Igor.
Igor.
Yeah. Any nope. Young Frankenstein. Nobody. Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like,
Yeah,
it's
Mel
actually
Brooks,
Frankenstein,
fantastic.
and he calls him Igor. He's like, actually, it's pronounced Igor. Yeah. No. Okay,
Great
go watch
movie.
Young Frank. I don't know if you guys are Mel Brooks fans. I love
Oh
Mel
yeah.
Brooks movies.
Oh, yeah,
This
for
is
sure.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, do you know who Mel Brooks is?
You'd be
Do I
more
know
your
who Mel Brooks
generation.
is? Yes, but I'm not
Yeah.
explicitly a fan. But I'm not again.
Oh,
Just
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Just the ridiculous
exists.
slapstick comedy, and yeah.
All right. Well, also the Igor that I know best is from the DOS game Hugo, where there's that in the Whodunit. There's this scientist that has a bumbling assistant who pushes the wrong button on the machine, and he turns you into like different versions of yourself, like one with holes, or he makes so you walk funny. So Igor is just super incompetent. I assume that's similar to Frankenstein, but I know it best from the DOS game.
Yeah. He's always messing up. Stupid Dwigged. Who's Dwigged?
Yeah.
Dwigged?
DWIGHT.
Oops.
All right. So Sam says here, I think Cliff might be Lou's father. And Deadman says it's impossible, but Cliff gave his dog tags to tell him something about the BBs and how they were made. So why he says it's impossible, that was my theory with the timeline. I don't know if something else. And Sam says it seemed like Cliff just wanted to talk at that moment. And Deadman counters that he was holding the director and the president captive on the beach. So they must have a history. So, yeah, I don't know. Some disjointed thoughts there when I read them from my notes, but that's generally what happens. All right, so then Deadman pulls up a message from Die Hardman called "If I Don't Come Back," and it was to be insurance because he's heading to the beach. And guess what? When he pops up, he says, "This is for Bridges' eyes only." Everybody knows that reference?
For British eyes only.
For
From
British
Arrested-
eyes only.
Yeah. From
I was
Arrested
like,
Development, right?
There it is. Yep.
Yeah, so it's actually a reference to 007, which is
Yeah.
for your eyes only.
Yeah.
And then Arrested Development took it and called it for for British eyes only. And I'm pretty sure he's referencing the latter.
And I hope so. What a
Yeah.
weird deep cut.
Yeah.
Just I don't know. It's so subtle, but
I would be
I
so
can't believe
tickled.
he didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be so tickled to find out that Hideo Kojima is a Arrested Development fan.
Yeah. With as much media as he consumes, I would have to think he's seen Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I should
right.
hope so.
Mr. F.
What a cleverly written show.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Oh, it's so good.
Yep. All right, so Amelie says she'd take him to the beach, but he'd need he's talking about like how he's going to the beach, and he shows a doll, and he says he needs this to be able to get to the beach. And it's normal; it doesn't have nails in its head, but it does have the repatriate scar. So for some reason, that is the base version of the doll that is necessary to jump to Amelie's beach. Pin in that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he knows it's a trap, knows that they've been playing along too, and he pulls off his mask. And so we thought up until this point that Die Hardman had been involved in the Manhattan Project, and that or was that just our guess that maybe his face had been scarred from the explosion? But I think that was
Sam
just
said that.
our guess.
Yeah, he
Oh,
said
Sam
something
does.
about maybe something about burns.
Yeah. But nope, he's just got a super unburned normal face.
Super handsome face. He's Idris Elba type. Good for him.
He's diet Idris Elba. Yeah. Dollar
Yeah,
store
exactly.
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba is obviously prime version. All right.
When you want Idris Elba and your mom says we have Idris Elba at home, that's that guy. Yeah.
All right. So after he pulls off, he says Amelie's a blank slate too. She's a ghost, and he's never met her in person. And Sam starts to think in that moment, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. I've seen her. And so he says that, he's seen her plenty of times. He's seen her on the beach, but it was when he was a kid, and he hasn't seen her since. And that so he goes on and he continues to say that she got, so she was put in the hospital about the time she was 20, and she was in poor health, and Bridget demanded that they speak only through chirogram or hologram, and they're never allowed to see her in person. So around the time that she's 20, she goes into seclusion, and we've never seen her in person ever since, if we saw her before that. And they say her dooms numbers were off the chart, but that was just part of a story, because she doesn't have dooms like the rest of us, as Higgs points out. But her
Right.
supernatural talents are growing.
But I think Higgs is the only one who points that out or knows that. I think everyone else does think that her doom's numbers are off the charts, because they were talking about Bridges 1 and she was able to see the BTs from a mile away or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Something allows her to do that. And it could just be an extinction entity thing now that we know that that's what she is.
Right.
Yeah, so she goes into seclusion around 20, and Bridget demands it's only through hologram. But he also says by the time she was 20, she could travel to and from the beach, body and all. That's where she would spend all of her time. Now, if you wanted to get in, let's see, then, yeah. So I also noticed. Okay, so Bridget also had discovered to have uterine cancer. Was it also at age 20? Or
Yeah. So Die Hardman says that around age 20, I don't remember if he says exactly age 20, but it's something like that. That he says that Bridget develops uterine cancer and is unable to have children.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So then, because of that, Amelie can't be her child, but also Sam can't be her child, although they're not just kind of talking about that, even though it also seems important.
Mhm.
Right. So they probably constructed this to conceal her true nature. And Die Hardman says he was loyal. So when Amelie said this, or when Bridget said that Amelie was her daughter and that it was the best candidate to succeed her, he believed it. He also, seems to be, that is just some Die Hardman level loyalty there. Just, this guy is in it with her. Did we find out here? We find out at some point his name actually is John Blake McClane. So I was right. It actually is John McClane from Die Hard. That was just me guessing at the time, because of Die Hardman and McClane. He is John McClane.
And he also says some people die harder than others. And I just
with a
right on the
vengeance.
nose. Yeah.
Like, all right, guy, you're hitting the nail on the head a little bit.
Yeah.
What is
All
it?
right.
Is it my wife and I have never been too sure about what Oscar says when Kevin is probing about Jim and Pam. Does Oscar say subtle? Or do you know what I'm talking about? That scene where Kevin's saying, he's like, oh, is Jim going to be there? And Pam's like, I don't know. And,
I'm pretty sure it's subtle.
Okay.
What Oscar says.
Okay.
Yeah, Oscar
Now
whispering to Hideo, like, subtle. He can be really, really vague about some things and really on the nose about others.
Yeah, I also love that, like, in this world, they have all of these movies, like My Fair Lady and stuff, and so they actively reference these movies as if it's a part of their zeitgeist. But they don't talk about Die Hard.
I'll say I love how My Fair Lady was your go-to.
Well, that's the one they bring up the most because of My Fair Lady and the London Bridge is falling down, which Deadman describes as an ammirement for the person. So the bridge was built on the foundation of Eliza. It was this whole thing. Wait, was that only in? It might only be in side logs. I don't think he says it during the story.
Yeah, I missed
So I
that
went with
part
My
if it
Fair Lady
was.
because it's a core part of why they're constantly singing My Fair Lady and stuff like that. And that maybe it sort of ties into the story of like how the foundation of bridges was created was on this Amir, which is like a live attunement of somebody. Anyway, it's a whole tangent of lore that we can get into later.
Thank you for putting me in my place, Sham.
You're welcome. There's a purpose to all these things. Yeah. All right, so Sam accepts the invitation in case she's the cause of Death Stranding to go to the beach to talk her out of this last stranding.
Well, but before that, we learned that it's real quick.
Oh no. Die Hardman accepted. I was jumping.
Die Hardman accepts the thing, and he says in this log he's bringing a gun and with rounds infused with Sam's blood, planning to kill Amelie. Like that's his plan. He figures that this is probably a trap, Amelie luring him to her beach, but he's got his gun and he's intending to kill her. So that's his plan. It's just to stop the next Death Stranding by going to her beach and killing Amelie.
Yeah, and this is also where he reveals he doesn't even have dooms. So everything we thought we understood about this guy is a lie. He's just a normal person.
Yeah, no dooms, not a repatriate. And I wanted why the subterfuge? Why is he this whole game been?
So I think that's how he gets in the position he's in now, as second to the president. Okay. Those are all assets in this life and in this.
No,
world.
The president would know he's not one.
Oh
that's what I would think.
That's right.
Yeah, or does she just go along with it to not give away her? Is it like layered? Like she's in on it, but she's letting him lie and pretending. Yeah.
I don't know that. Has he even told the other people in Bridges that he's a repatriate, or he just says at the beginning of the game, we both have something in common. We both die hard or whatever. He doesn't actually ever say it.
Oh, because he says it pretty laissez-faire. So I always figured it was like a well-known thing.
He does indicate.
I think he does say
that he's got that he at least that he has dooms, right? Doesn't he say he's a level 2?
I don't remember him saying that, but if you're right, you're right. But I don't remember it.
Well, I don't remember well enough.
He's level 2. It's really high.
Don't get too excited. That's out of 20.
Yeah. All right. He says he's never died because he's always run from death, and so he thinks of himself as a coward, is what he's denoting here.
He's always run from death, he said.
Yeah. All right. Episode 12, Bridges, the last one we're going to cover for the day. All right. Deadman thought that Die Hardman went to the beach to confront Amelie, but it was Amelie who, and then Deadman cuts out because of a chiral shorting the electricity in the area. But then Fragile shows up to complete the thought and says that she talked to Higgs on the beach, and he was more than willing to spill the beans about anything she wanted. Higgs betrayed Fragile because it was part of her plan, Amelie's plan, and she was their leader. So Higgs saying, I don't need this mask anymore. Somebody that I've met has helped me become the true me, whatever it is he says. It was Amelie he was referring to. So the terrorist void outs the extinction agenda. That was all him and Amelie, and Sam doesn't believe her. And so Higgs turned on Fragile after meeting Amelie. So I think he's just seduced by power, and Amelie was the most powerful person he had met.
Well, and it gives extra credence to Higgs always referring to himself as the particle of God, that he views Amelie as a god. And she has imbued him with power, and he is a particle of that power. Mm-hmm. And so this is a part that's really indicating and making it seem like Amelie has secretly been the big bad all along, and so it's our job to go and stop her. So, but yeah, I like the idea of Higgs getting his power from Amelie and referring to him himself as a particle of God.
Yes, he does say that at first he wanted to work with Fragile because he wanted to expand territory, so he was all in on the UCA. Or porting, I guess. They were couriers. But he did want to connect. So not what he is now. And he wanted to leverage Fragile's power to do it. So if he's doing that, he can jump now, but he couldn't then. So he had no dooms when he met Fragile. Also, this does explain that she did not get level 3 dooms from the beach. She already had it.
It also makes a lot of sense of what we talked about last episode, where Higgs tries to use his dooms and he can't. Meaning that it is like here in a sense, Amelie gave him dooms willingly to help with her agenda, and now that Higgs was no longer of use, she took that back, and that's why he couldn't use his dooms on the beach we saw earlier. So just clearing up that point from last episode.
Yeah. All right, so Amelie could even control BTs, Fragile says. So did she see that happen? That's great. Not something I want her to be able to do. All right, so he sided with her and turned him into an agent of extinction. Amelie granted the powers and made him Higgs her homo demens, her madman. So Sam asks if Fragile has an answer for Bridget being on the beach, because she seems to have the answers to everything right now. But she just sort of ignores that and goes on. She said that Higgs had no BB. So this whole time he's had the Odra deck, he doesn't have a BB in there. Instead, he had the creepy doll that Die Hardman said is necessary for jumping to the beach. But it's the demented version of the doll. It's not the one with just the T scar.
Yeah, so I wonder if Amelie is able to imbue BB-like powers into these dolls and gift them to people who she wants to have advanced dooms.
Mm.
If that's how she gave Higgs his dooms abilities.
Yes. Okay.
No, I'm also curious if the appearance of these dolls, because we've seen some where the eyes don't work, or like they've got nails in their heads aren't working, and some of them look a little bit more pristine than others. But is that important, or is that kind of like and what color do you want your BB kind of thing? You can customize it.
I'd like one with nails, please. Yeah.
Yeah, it fits my personality. It's weird.
So I'm also curious if it is something to where those dolls are all from previous people that were in Higgs's role. Because she's an extinction entity, been trying to do this for years and years and years. Timeline on the beach is iffy at best. And it to me, it would make sense of like discarded BBs, that these are discarded fake BBs that she's used for. And maybe it's not all just like Higgs's, but other purposes to bring people to the beach.
Yeah. So Cliff has his own BBs for his own beach. They're similar, but they're far more demented than most of these other BBs, except this BB that Higgs uses to get to Amelie's beach. But okay, so remember in a previous episode when just the previous one where Amelie says get out of here, and she pushes him down out of her beach into his lower beach in order to repatriate at his seam. And when you repatriate that time, you have the doll inside of you instead of BB-28. So that's where I realized, okay, so if we're using these dolls to get to Amelie's beach, the reason I was confused at the time, but the reason he had the doll in his throat is because he has the doll whenever he's repatriating from her beach. But if he's going to his beach, I think he has BB-28.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
we were talking about repatriating from a beach, but like when you die in the game, you're
seam.
Not. Yeah, you're repatriating from a seam. Okay, but it's like
you never get onto the beach in those moments.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't know which beach you're on. Are you on Sam's beach or are you on Amelie's beach? And if you see BB-28, you're probably at the seam of your own beach. But at this moment, you were at the Amelie's beach, so you had the doll inside of you instead, because that helped as a totem to get him there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so this implies that Homo Demons did not start the BB project, so that was all it covered. They weren't trying to counter the Homo Demons by restarting the BB project. That was all probably just propaganda.
Yeah.
And then it said, your BB connects you to the world of the living, their doll connects them to Amelie and her beach. So, yeah, we've been over that.
You said world of the living. 'Ours link us to the world of the dead.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Deadman says that Cliff, Higgs, and the director were all drawn in and controlled by the extinction entity. But is this Bridget or is this Amelie? If Bridget's dead, then it's probably Amelie. I don't know. They could have both been extinction entities at one time, but we don't know.
I just had a thought.
Yeah,
Sorry, with that last line that you said. So it says, when the your BB links you to the world of the dead, and their dolls link them to Amelie and her beach, is something that Fragile says. Does that mean that when Higgs is using the dooms gifted from Amelie to pull those monsters up out of the Chiralium tar, that
it's from
he's
her
pulling
beach.
those monsters from Amelie's beach?
Yes.
Interesting. So as an extinction entity, she has access to like higher, more powerful BTs at her beach, and Higgs is pulling those monsters from her beach.
Yeah, I think so. Well, again, like I had mentioned before, you can see those BTs while you're in a seam if you die, and they're white. I don't know if that's because you're in your seam or if you're in hers, but I think you would be in your own seam to repatriate. I think that's required because that's where his body would be as
Yeah.
a beacon. So the BTs might be in both of them, but he when he is using the umbilical cords, he is pulling them from her beach.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Cool. I like that little detail. Yeah.
Yeah, and why do
Yeah.
they only appear so weird when they're pulled into our world? When we're like the BT monsters, it's like a whale with the squid face or something like that, or like
Mm.
the weird lion type that you fight. Like you don't see versions of those ever on the beach when you're talking with Amelie. It's always just normal dead sea creatures. They don't
Well,
seem
no,
mutilated
no,
or
those
mutated.
creatures. Like I said, it's. I had to watch a YouTube clip. I've never seen it, but those creatures do swim in the water, and it's only during. I don't know if it's a random number generator situation or if you die in a specific, like maybe you die where you voided out before, but I had to watch a clip where it was explaining to me that they are in the seam, the mutilated cosmic horror
Oh, okay.
BTs are. And they also are on the surface. Remember at the beginning, I think it was the prologue or episode one, where we see one of them float over the surface of the water as if it's protecting these BTs from escaping.
Okay.
All right. Yes. So now we have to go find Amelie to avert to the final stranding, and then we find out that Fragile is going to slip into a coma, and her car will become stranded on the beach. So I love that he's basically intimating here that comas are a lapse in ha-ka connection. So he's taking normal things that always happen. And he's like, well, what if it was told in our world? What could this mean? So I thought that was cool. All right. So after this, there's another Unger memory, and it's unrelated to things before. It's just him whistling and looking at a rainbow cake. He wants to rainbow. So just tying that to the time fall and everything. And he wants to have a birthday for BB. So showing his paternal side again.
Yeah. Nice little moment where he like holds the cake up to the pot and then blows out the candles because BB is a BB.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a cute little moment. Yeah.
So now you have to go all the way back to Capital Knot City, and I love the detail that the Odra deck was still broken from the time that Higgs shot it, so there's continuity there in the model.
Yeah. I also like this part of the journey. They talk about how, like before you set off, that because the chiral network is unstable because of all the crazy stuff going on, that you can't use chiral printers for this last leg of the journey. So if you need supplies, you have to pick them up from like post boxes or find packages left by other porters. And so I just love that on this last leg of your journey, it takes away one convenience that you have and says, all right, as a last test of real connection, you have to rely on other porters who are oftentimes like other real players who have left things in their game that are populated into your version of the game. And so packages that other real people have left behind and put into like storage lockers. If you need something, that's where you have to get it because the chiral printers are offline. So it's this one last push for the importance of connection and the importance of relying on others and teamwork. And it's a good marriage of narrative and gameplay, getting the player to feel the themes of the story through a restriction of the gameplay.
Yeah, unless you know what cosmic horror is right around the corner because you've played the game before, so you load up on as many guns as possible.
Yeah, all the guns, yeah.
Guy, you probably were not as lucky to have prepared for this situation.
No,
for the
but
cosmic whale.
not as much, but I was able to find some weapons nearby, and so it wasn't too bad, but it was quite a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so
did anybody come and help you guys? Like, it said that other people might show up and help in the fight, but I didn't see anyone else.
I think
If
that
you
probably
can call out for them.
if we had played this like when it first came out and there were more people online, that's probably more common, but
Okay.
I haven't ever experienced that, so.
Bummer.
No,
Okay.
like if you hit the middle part of your PS5 controller, he calls out, I don't know what it is on PC, but he calls out, "Hey, can somebody help me?" And then like one of the
Oh.
white versions of yourself will pop out of the tar and will throw you things.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yes, they'll give you like supplies. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't have that this time, but it was the last time I played. I do
Like
remember
Elizabeth in
like, the
BioShock
white
style.
goopy guy. Yes,
She's
exactly
so
like that.
generous.
Just find
Everybody's
bullets
favorite
everywhere.
NPC.
That's a game we should do on the channel is BioShock Infinite.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's definitely the plan. I know that they want to do BioShock 4, I believe they would call it. I don't know. Infinite is like out of the sequence,
BioShock Double Infinite. Yeah.
but the original
Infinite
creator,
squared.
the original creator is running off and he's doing a new game that's already been revealed and it looks gorgeous, but it's got just as much weird charm to it. But I don't know that we'll get another BioShock in the same flavor that we've had. So yeah, we have to find a moment to do that. And nobody's going to watch it because it's not relevant at this time, but we'll do it anyway because it's amazing.
It's a good game.
Yeah. And Infinite it's so hard to wrap your head around because they really mess with like chronology and things like that. It's a mind melter.
Yeah, well, and it's just another opportunity for us to gush over Troy Baker some more. So.
Oh right. I didn't know him at the time I played it though. All right, so as you're approaching Capital Knot City to be able to deliver these cryptobiotes for Fragile, which I feel like they could have just sourced locally, but you know.
Yeah, you like walk right outside of Capital Knot, and there's I don't know if the cryptobiotes are randomly placed on people's maps, but I pretty distinctly remember that like right outside of Capital Knot, there's like a whole bunch of them just like there. It's like walk outside, man. I'm not the only one with boots. Like just
Yeah. She needed like 2.
Yeah, I also like never used the cryptobiotes. Isn't it the same thing as using a blood bag? Every time I went to go eat them, it's like, no, you don't need this anymore. So
yeah, I think it does serve the same purpose as a blood bag.
okay,
I might totally be wrong about that, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I didn't really have much gameplay use for cryptobiotes. They were more of a story thing for me.
Yeah. All right, so as you approach, there's like a blue-green aurora borealis, and then after you get past that section, the sky goes orange-red, gorgeous color. It saturates everything. Now, do you have a theory as to why everything has gone red here?
It's opposite on the color wheel to blue.
Today. So it's because all of the seams are merging together to form the final stranding, and that rift in that dimension is causing more color to escape our reality than normal. So it's really just because the light can bleed through the seam more readily here, and that's where the whale comes through, is through that seam.
So the blue light is going into the seam and we're left with the red light.
We're seeing more color than blue escape now because it is wider. And so all that's left is red, which is the longest frequency of color that's left. See, it kind of worked its way down the color spectrum. All right, so then you get a cosmic floating BT. This seems to be inspired by The Thing, which Tucker, you just watched.
Yep, fantastic. Best body horror. Go watch it.
Ever. It is one of my... It has to be the best horror I've ever seen. And And so I highly recommend to everybody. John Carpenter at his very best. So it opens its maw, and you see several golden human mandibles.
Super cool and normal. Yeah.
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 It reminds me of like the finger monster and that like from the Fallout series, especially in the Fallout TV show. There's that one thing that's like it opens its mouth and it's like a bunch of human fingers.
Mm-hmm. The axolotl.
Yeah, the axolotl with
Fallout.
like big finger human mouth thing. Very unsettling. Yeah.
So
what a great
cool.
show.
It really was amazing. And what's that actor's name who played the
Walter Goggins?
Walter Goggins.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Everybody needs to love Walter Goggins right now.
Walter Goggins is so hot right now. Between White Lotus and that, he's everywhere.
Scott, this is going to be intentionally insulting, but I don't mean it that way. But Walter Goggins.
Hold on, how can it be intentionally insulting and you don't mean it?
Scott's over here like, let me hear. Yeah.
No, Walter Goggins, there have been articles that said that he's ushering back, or he's created space for receding hairlines to be sexy.
Ooh.
So
okay.
So you need to appreciate this man. He's actually created space.
What are you trying to say?
To be at the top of. I'm saying that you're supposed to be at the top of the food chain now, and I'm not.
Little did you know that this has been.
Hair. Don't let anybody tell you different.
I was going to say, this is what my hairline has looked like my entire life. Nothing is receding.
First of all,
you've never been.
So you're in the denial stage of grief.
No, but I have noticed that, like, if you have receding hairline, you probably have a very thick, like, facial hair. And I get the thick hair on top. I get nothing here, and so I look like a man baby.
We used to call it when Shannon would try to grow a beard, we called it his Franco beard because he looked like James Franco. It's like the tufts on the cheeks and a little bit on the chin and the mustache. Yeah.
It also looked like Matt Damon in The Martian.
Yeah. Who was like emaciated and malnourished and
looks like you shaved.
Looks like
you shaved with a goat.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But anyway, we can move on from this. So also at the top of like all of these mandibles, which are made out of golden carnelian, we see that there's like a skull that looks like the one that Higgs wears. And it also has human bones, like femurs and stuff, used as its spine. This is cool
and normal. Yeah.
We do find out through scattered lore that the bigger the BT, the more BTs that are combined into it. So, like, this whale thing might be 100,000 Kas merged into a single BT.
It's a Rat King situation.
King. Hey, Rat King.
It's Rat King. Yeah, that's right.
Are there more references to that in media? Because my wife and I have been watching 30 Rock again, and that just happened like a few days ago. Yeah.
Where he talks about the Rat King. Those are real, you know. There's one other, you haven't played the game yet, so we can't really talk about it, but it's a Last of Us situation. Yeah. And you'll know when you see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard not to know it.
All right, so if you get caught by this whale thing, you get a void out immediately. So I did die once. Nom 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 nom.
It just chomps you right up. Yeah.
Yeah, it emerged from the ground and it snapped me up an instant void out. But that's where I realized, Scott, you were right. The yellow spots are not urine because when it's emerging from the ground, it has the yellow around the spot it's about to emerge.
I knew it.
So you don't piddle yourself.
Yeah,
you knew it.
I knew it.
I just wanted it to be urine so badly.
It's Kojima. Urine was not off the table. It very well could have been.
Yeah, we have Sam like being super alpha, but like a super male. And here he is piddling himself at the sight of BTs. I wanted that so badly.
I mean,
can't over here. Oh
pretty
gosh,
human
I
response.
hope it's urine.
Yeah.
It's either blood, urine, or semen.
Meerkats pee on each other as a sign of dominance. Learn that from Always Sunny.
Yes. They make a very specific point about that.
Yeah.
dogs pee on each other as a sign of stupidity. I was on a walk with my family the other day, and my older brother and his family brought their dog, who is I have a big dog, they have a really small dog, and my big dog was like peeing on a bush, and then their dog just goes and like walks right under him. And I was like, where's your brain at, man? Like, he's peeing just right into the stream. Just, yeah.
Yeah. I lived at an apartment once, and like we went down to take Laylee out to urinate, and she ended up finding some other dog's urine and just flipped over and starts rubbing her back on it aggressively.
I gotta smell like this. Yeah.
And so we immediately had to give her a bath, and she tried to do it the next day and got a little bit on her, but gosh, she loved the smell of that urine. She was ready to mate. All right, so after you kill the whale, which is amazing, it brings back the blue color, so the seam seems to have been patched up right there. You run into Capital Knot, you deliver the cryptobiotes fragile, you hold it in front of her, and she's like, what's that amazing aroma that is
it's
right
like
in
when
front
a
of my
dog
food?
is sleeping and you put a treat in front of their nose and they wake up and, whoa, treat? Yeah.
We don't need smelling salts here.
Yeah.
No.
No one loves cryptobiotes like Fragile, her favorite food.
She's in the same room that President Strand was in when she had died. And so that's where they described the molecular level jet lag. Die Hardman is back in the isolation ward after having come back from Amelie's beach.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Hardman realized something while he was looking for Amelie's beach. If beaches were like a multiverse, hers is on a higher plane. So we've talked about this so many times already. Sam,
is that Hartman? No, it's just Shan. Perfect cadence.
Exactly. Yes. So this is hers being on a higher plane explains him being pushed down into the water in order to repatriate. She's pushing him into another beach, and they can't get to it unless she wants it and allows it. And he also describes this as like, since it's a circulatory system, the flow only goes in one direction unless she allows you to go against the stream.
The vampire rules. You have to be invited in.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. She's a vampire.
No, everyone else is a vampire. That's what.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm curious. We're talking about her pushing us into another beach, and does it have to be pushed into another beach, or can her beach like contain ours anyway? Like she's kind of gathering them already, right? Kind of layering them in. Does it have to be separate, or can it be everything that it needs to be?
Well, if you think of it as a cardiovascular system, Amelie's beach is the heart. No, but I do think that does explain it, is because like the other beaches are all connected and they all feed from Amelie's beach, but Amelie's beach is a separate entity. It's her beach. It's not like a two-way street. It's its own thing. It's the one that the chiral energy flows from into the other beaches.
Yeah.
But not the other way around.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And he definitely had to go back to his beach to repatriate because that's where his body is.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So she pushed him, into his beach. And back into his seam.
Yeah. So she had pushed out Die Hardman and Fragile, so she had kicked them out of her beach. No, I get it. Will always be at capacity for them. But she wants Sam to come. So, Sam needs to go and talk her out of it. He might get stuck there if he ends up having to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
So that closes the seam, I guess. Her seam.
Because Amelie is the only one that can usher people to and from her beach. So if you go to Amelie's beach and kill her, then you're stuck on Amelie's beach. There's no one to push you back.
Yeah.
All right. So they say this is a cliche, but you're our only hope. So Star Wars.
Help me, Sam. One Kenobi.
Yeah. He loves sci-fi. I love this. So we got Star Trek, Minority Report, and I'm spacing some others.
Other sci-fi things, I'm sure.
And
Star Trek is referenced,
It's so great. All right. So he pulls out the Dreamcatcher and he shows it to everybody. And I think this is him implying because now they've explained that the Dreamcatcher is an invitation to change the future. And so I think he's saying like the power is still in my hand. I can go and take control of this situation, but it's also a totem to get him to the beach. So it's also him saying, I'm ready. Here's my totem. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's not a distorted baby.
No, and I like this part too, because then right afterwards, Sam gives a big old speech about connection and saving the world and friendship and it's just like he's a completely changed person from who he was at the beginning of the game. Because like no one's like, all right, Sam, let's give a speech and tell us all the things you believe in. He was just like, he's like about to go do something important, and then he just kind of spouts off and starts like, we have to connect, we have to, and it was a nice, like, I feel like it's the last step in his journey of character growth, where he's like, this is what he's been kind of slowly working towards and becoming over the course of this game.
Yeah, this is the moment in any story where you have to display that he is not the same person that he was when the story started, that this story mattered, and he adopted the character growth that was offered to him.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and it feels like he's never talked this long. It's like Jerry Gergich in Parks when he's like
No
he
one's
just
ever let
starts
me
like
talk this long.
exactly. He just starts like muttering and stammering and stuff. And sorry, nobody's ever let me talk that long.
But
it feels
unlike
very
Jerry,
uncharacteristic.
Sam gives a very moving speech. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he describes how the world is in entropy, but Sam is optimistic about buying a little time for the world to improve. And he learned that lesson specifically from Fragile, who had time robbed from her, and she didn't have theoretically as much time left because of that, and she decided to make the most out of what she had. And so he learned how to care again for tomorrow when he lived for today, because he saw hope from other people who lived that way. And he learned that lesson from Fragile about trying to improve with what you have.
Yeah, and even if the end is inevitable and might even be close, it is worth it to fight for just a little bit more. And if
to make it a little bit better.
To make it a little bit better for the people that you care about, right? And Eric, if you like that, then you have to go back and finish Outer Wilds.
I just don't think I'm gonna.
Eric,
okay, then
you've been bamboozled. This entire thing was a setup to get you to play the game.
Because I played 95% of the game, and it failed. It tripped over the finish line so hard that I completely lost.
The finish line's the most important part.
No. But Eric, my point is that you tripped and failed at the finish line so hard.
That's fair,
because you didn't finish it where it ties everything together and makes your entire experience meaningful in the same way that Sam's speech made the whole game meaningful in a way where it's like, you only have this short time and everything's going to end and it's inevitable, but it's worth it anyway. It's like, if you like that, at least watch a YouTube video of somebody playing it and finish it.
I was going to say, does it count if I watch a YouTube video instead of doing it myself?
Yeah, watch somebody who takes their time.
Challenge in Outer Wilds sucks. It's not.
You can
fun.
think the gameplay loop is like a C at best, but it's the end story, it's the epilogue that makes the entire journey worth it. It has an excellent theme, an excellent message, and it really makes you introspective.
And here's the thing is I've forgotten enough of it that I'm worried if I try to just do the ending now that it wouldn't be impactful. But I don't know. I might give it another proper chance. I understand why people love Outer Wilds, and it just didn't really grab me. I felt like the gameplay loop was not terribly fulfilling.
That's okay. Yeah.
Everybody don't hate me. I know everybody loves Outer Wilds.
Not everyone.
I know I'm in the minority.
Yeah. I haven't even played it, so
I'll
play it with you, Eric.
It's not a bad game. It's
very different.
Is it how
it's very different? Yeah.
Is it how you explain Death Stranding to somebody who's never played Death Stranding, where it's like, I love this game, but if you don't like it, I understand?
That's my caveat for
You don't
Death
like it,
Stranding
I'll kill
always.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Gosh.
I love it, and if you don't like it, I totally get that. Yeah, I kind of feel that way where it's I have a few games on my list of like games that everybody loves, and I played them and I was like, I don't get it. And
Like Stray.
but Stray is a terrible game. I have no idea why anyone had got any amount of enjoyment out of it. It's just a poorly designed game. It's just bad.
Poorly
does
designed, but it
does a
things
few
right.
things really, really well. And
Yeah.
then like 80% of the game is just poor game design and bad storytelling. Like it's just,
I mean,
it's just not
You can
a good
enjoy.
game.
No, it's like how I thought about Sonic Frontiers, where it's like, this is the best 5 out of 10 I've ever played. It's because you have to take out. You have
Yeah,
to
but
take out
Sonic
the bad
Frontiers is
acting. You have
fun.
to take out the bad writing. You have to take. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Is like,
Stray
you
doesn't
kinda-
have anything fun to fall back on. It fails at the most important things, and then it doesn't have
It's-
a fun gameplay loop to fall back on.
The world is fun. I not like fun, but it's interesting. It's a
That's
beautiful.
the only thing that game does right. Is the world is interesting and beautiful,
And the mocap of the cat is amazing.
the character design is very, very nice. The
Mocat.
art direction is very nice. And the mocap of the cat is really impressive most of the time, and every once in a while it's very weird and janky. But I don't know.
got charm.
We're getting very off topic. We're not here to talk about the few games that Eric doesn't like. Undertale. But
Undertale is okay. It's pretty
Undertale
good.
is fine. It's not a
But
terrible
it's-
game, but I don't
Sometimes
understand
it's like
why the
pulling your
world.
teeth, but the
I don't
payoff is
understand.
fine.
Well, it's like people talk about Undertale like it's the best thing that's ever happened, and it's fine. It's fine. It's not good or bad. It just kind of is fine.
Yeah, I think it's just
hardly
people
know
that-
Undertale.
I feel like a lot of people love the genre of surrealism, and when they get to Undertale, they're like, I'm Gen Z, I've never experienced surrealism. This is kind of cool. It's like, you don't understand the better stuff that's out there.
Yeah. Maybe we should have maybe we'll do an Eric's Indie Corner where we talk about the few indie games that I don't like, because I don't want to waste time here talking about why I don't like Undertale. But
That'd be interesting.
maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be negative. I don't know if we want to do that. I'll think about it, because I have a couple indie games I've played. Braid is another one. Braid's just a bad game. I don't get why people like that one.
So every game that Scott like,
Yeah, I don't like Braid. I think it has some shining moments of interesting things, but I just think it's mostly a poorly designed game by an egomaniac.
that's why anybody creates games.
Yeah.
Just some are more successful at it.
Yeah, if you
And then
want
we
to, if you
reward
want
the
to,
egomania.
I forget the guy's name, but if you ever want to be talked down to, like you're a toddler and you don't have a single brain cell in your brain, listen to like the game dev commentary from the guy that developed Braid.
I watched
everything that he says. He's just like, I'm so smart and no one else is, and it just rubs me the wrong way.
I kind of got that impression. I watched the documentary Indie Game. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I have not.
It follows Super Meat Boy, Braid, and Fez,
Oh,
and kind of their
Fez is another one I've never played. I wanna play
development
that one.
through release. And it was very interesting, the differences between how they were all developed and the people behind it and their experience doing it. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
It's just called Indie Game.
It's just called Indie Game, yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It seems right up my alley.
Yeah.
Anyways, we like got right to the end of what we wanted to talk about, and then I got very derailed by
Pulled a
talking
Eric
about indie
playing
games.
Undertale. Or Undertale that you fumbled at the finish line?
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds.
is
Wild
the-
Wilds, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Eric
Well,
there.
so after this, Sam says that he couldn't find a working still mother east of Port Knot City. So we now understand that a BB doesn't have to be connected to its own still mother in order to reconnect back into the center of the spectrum of life and death, which is interesting because does that imply that BB is some? I don't know. We don't know. But it means that you were never connecting to its own mother, or you didn't need to, at
It's
least.
just a still mother. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Could imply that BB has been passed around, like a hot potato. And so he gives BB to Deadman and asks him to nurse him back to life. And then Lochna gets to hold the BB for a second. And you see some affection there that she has for a baby, so that's sweet.
I was going to point out that at one point, Lochna or the combination of them came up to hug Sam, and Sam shut that down hard. I don't know if you noticed that in the cutscene.
Oh yeah, just
yeah. He's just
no,
like,
thank you.
No,
you're not Mads Mikkelsen. You can't hug me.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of surprised me. But what's that?
No, I think it's Lochna goes to hug him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She does go to hug him.
He's like, nope.
Yeah, he's like,
yeah, stiff arms her.
No. Yeah, boy, everyone just seems so clueless around Sam. You know, it's really uncomfortable to watch. Yeah.
But he doesn't seem too bothered by it. He gives this nice little speech right afterwards. So
yeah,
I'm sure he's pretty used to like warding off physical touch from people because it's such a common way for humans to interact with each other. So
yeah. All right. So Fragile is going to send him to Amelie's beach, so he needs to find his love for Amelie again in order to reach that chiral resonance that will allow her to find it. And so you can hear the beach in the audio right before you flip off. So this is like Interstellar. It's cliche, but love also can travel through the chiral network, I guess, and help you. Yeah. I think that was the part that everybody hated about Interstellar the most was what's her face talking about how love is the fifth or whatever dimension.
I don't remember anything about Interstellar. I watched it once, like when it first came out, and I remember really enjoying it, and that's all I remember about it.
Watch it again. It's worth it. It's good.
Yeah. You have to watch it as a father. Second to this game, no other movie has ever broken down the themes of what it means to be a father as well as these.
I think it would probably hit different. Everything hits different once you have kids. I remember watching Finding Nemo after I had kids and being like, they took his son, like chase after the boat.
Yeah, that's right.
Or like watching Bluey, right?
I love Bluey. I have two daughters that are roughly the same age as Bluey and Bingo, and I'm relatively certain that they just watch Our Family and make a TV show out of it. I will say, though, I am not nearly as good a dad as Bandit. Bandit's on a whole other level. That dude's like super dad.
He is.
I'm like a C+ compared to him.
Yeah.
But
well, we only see him for 15-minute bursts.
It's just our life.
Right? You know, anyone can be the best dad in the world for 15 minutes.
Yeah, he clearly also has ADHD and is a stay-at-home work from his computer dad, just like, so there are things to relate there.
There's a lot of similarities. Yeah, there's all sorts of times we'll be watching an episode of Bluey and they'll like say something and Liz and I will look at each other and be like, I had that conversation verbatim with Gwen yesterday. Like,
yeah. Also, you watch enough Bluey and Peppa Pig, and suddenly you realize you can kind of do an Australian accent and a British accent that you couldn't do before. It's not great, but it's enough to read a story to your kid.
My kids have watched enough Bluey that it's affected the way that they refer to things. Like my youngest says, instead of like, that's my favorite part, she goes, oh, this is my favorite bit. Which is like a very Australian vernacular. And they say strawberries and blueberries instead of strawberries and blueberries because they like Bingo and Bluey are like the strawberries, blueberry. And so they have little like Australian idiosyncrasies to the way that they talk because of Bluey.
Are you allowed to say Dunny in your house?
Yeah, we're a Dunny household.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, so back to Fragile though. She sends you to the beach and the umbrella is always involved, and the umbrella's pole is made out of chiralium, and I think they at some point referred to the umbrella as being a sort of compass that allows her to lock into some frequency or be able to navigate the beach world.
Yeah, they do.
But it's also a reference to Mary Poppins.
Yeah, it's gotta be. All umbrellas are references to Mary Poppins.
Yeah, she can like essentially travel worlds using this umbrella, just like Mary Poppins. So he knew what he was doing, but I love that it's like there's no media that he thinks is not appropriate for him. Like he respects all media with so much reverence, and I just adore that.
Well, I also think it's very much like like the umbrella is in relation to Timefall. I think that Timefall in particular has significance to Fragile, and so having her device that she can travel between beaches with be directly related to timefall as an umbrella is some kind of is significant symbolism.
She had the umbrella when Higgs sent her out in the rain and he broke it, and so she had to get another one, I'm sure.
Yep.
So she needs this to be able to travel through the beach, or at least to be able to know where she's going. But also, I think it informed the character because we also learn at some point, like, she adores her own face. She values her own beauty so much, and that's what Higgs wanted to preserve when he put the mask on her. And so I feel like the umbrella is a way of saying, I want to be protected from the timefall, but I still want to show my face because I like my face so much instead of just putting a hood on like Sam does. That would be covering her natural beauty.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking up the
part.
notes that I wrote about the umbrella. There was some mail. This is what I wrote down. It says that isn't an umbrella. It factors chiral density across beaches and plots coordinates for her jumps. And then I wrote, notice that it says beaches, not just her beach. And then it also says when Fragile senses chiralium concentrations, the spikes on her suit pop out. But it's not her doing it consciously. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, I think that's when she finds a spike of chiral density that allows her to make a jump.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right, so right after this, we get the unexpected. You're on the beach, but you're also a baby, and Amelie approaches you, and Sam, there you are, and he's crying, you want to go home? Let's go home now. I know the way, and pushes him back into the water.
She just
Yeah, what in the world?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is like a memory from his childhood. Did Sam maybe die as a baby? Did he die in childbirth? Did he die when he was really young and Amelie was there at his beach to help him repatriate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
I mean,
we'll
he's
find
able
out.
to travel there when he's a child, so it's like he could have been doing this since he was a baby.
Yep. That's the first thought I had, was that it seemed like a vision from maybe the first time Sam died, when he was either maybe in childbirth or when he was very young, or like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. But yeah, since we now know so much of the next two chapters, we're not going to speculate too hard from here. We're just going to leave it to the next one because we have a lot to talk about in the next one, and we just hit a 2-hour mark. So
Yeah, we thought this was going to be a short episode. Every time we're like, it'll be a short episode. It never is.
No.
We always hit that length. Yeah.
yeah, I allowed a lot more just like tangents and stuff, and that filled the time. So
Yeah.
it's impossible to get it to an hour and a half. We've tried so many times.
We're just not going to do it. Yeah.
I had one question that's not super important, but we are back in the isolation ward. We were with Fragile, where she's recuperating. The same place where Bridget was. And when Bridget was in there, they had some holographic projections or something like that, made it look like a really nice Oval Office type environment, right? Fragile got nothing.
Yeah.
Is that because they didn't care, she wasn't good enough, or because the chiral network was down? I mean, it was just sterile.
Yeah, I think that it's like the Oval Office in that, like, if the president has to make an address of some type, they want a formal background to be able to give her that power. But other than that, maybe it's just she wants to be reminded of her own presidency and how powerful she is. And so she wants to be surrounded with that familiarity.
Okay.
And Fragile has none of that. Or, I don't know. I don't know what else it could be.
If it was Fragile's choice, it'd just been pictures of her own face around everyone.
Yeah.
She was in a coma by the time she got there. They didn't know what she wanted.
Yeah.
Cryptobiotes.
They could have
Just
been
a bunch of
just
just
cryptobiotes
pictures of
in her face.
It would have been a lot more sterile than the Bridget version.
I got cryptobiotes, her face, and leather pants.
Very tight. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and follow Eric's Indie Corners on Thursdays. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Outro. Bleepy doof, bleepity bloopity blow.